Okay, so I'm here with Dr. Sebastian Schröder.
Is it running already?
Yes,
Okay.
it is.
Great.
Wait, Sebastian Schröder. Am I slowly becoming German? Maybe by the end of the week,
yes.
I'm full on.
No, it was already perfect.
It was already perfect.
Schröder is just the
Schröder.
way perfect.
Perfect. Say Azucena?
Azucena?
Perfect. Okay,
Okay.
now you're Mexican.
Yeah.
Okay, so you are presenting on, obviously, for those who don't know, he is one of the people that is making this whole thing run smoothly and behind the scenes well, you were involved with the whole planning. But I'm not going to talk to him about the organization of this event, which so far has been very successful. I am going to be talking to him about one of the presentations that you will be doing, which he did not know the name of. But I do remember. And it's important to say that he still has not presented, so I still don't know exactly, but it's something that is very interesting to me. And it's towards an automated analysis of general movement assessments for predicting high-risk children with CP.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that is
Yes.
the longest.
That's why I also always have to look it up. Yeah, if you want to be exact, you have to look at it.
And let me just say, it's quite incredible. You have specialties in motor skills and intervention, developmental neurology and preterm care, general neuropediatrics, and social pediatrics. And if there's anything more you would like to add, please do say. But can you explain to me what exactly are the general movements? Because a lot of the people that listen and see this podcast are parents.
Yeah.
And a lot of them might not be aware of what these terms are. So in a brief manner, can you explain to me what are general movements?
Yes. So general movements are movements infants do unpurposely. Yeah, it's the neural networks in the brain that generate movements by themselves. Complex cell structures who do this. Yeah. So when a child is born, the child doesn't know how to grab, doesn't know how to make goal-directed movements, and it has to learn that. And just by laying there, it's not the idea of the infant, okay, there is something that I want to grab, so I do it. So the nervous system provides the body on a biological level with spontaneous activity. And this spontaneous activity by exploration throughout these complex movements then learns to become specific, become selective, become goal-directed. Okay? So what we can do is we can use these undirected, non-specific general movements to look at the integrity of the central nervous system. So when the general movements are of a good quality and they show complex movements of the left leg, the left arm, the right arm, the trunk, the neck, the head, all of this together is a concert of movements. And if these movements together are complex and they vary across time, so they do more, then they go down a little bit, then they do more again, then this is the key ingredients to have a good quality of general movements. And this represents an integrity of the central nervous system.
Right, so
Other way around, that means if these general movements are not good, they can be a hint for a not that integer central nervous system. And this is where the screening comes in.
Okay, so basically you observe patterns of the child, and these are babies, I imagine, barely born, perhaps. You observe these patterns and then make an assessment whether or not this child can have something like cerebral palsy, for example. Now, this requires a very deep understanding of what general movement should be and what they should look like. So I imagine that the professional who's observing the child has to be highly trained.
Exactly.
And I imagine as well, and I'm not a medical professional or a doctor, but I imagine that they have to have a high level of assessment and understanding of what they should look like. Yeah. Now, you are developing a machine like that will it not require human intervention or observation? Because usually what I've heard is that the lack of trained professionals is a barrier.
Yes.
So what do you hope to solve with this machine that you have developed? And please do talk more about what you have developed with colleagues, I imagine.
Yeah, of course. I mean, first of all, I have to say that within all of this main topic of this conference, which is on early detection and early intervention, there are many groups across the world from every country almost that work on the same problem and the same topic. Yeah? So it's not just us here in Munich and in Germany to work on this. There are also several groups in Germany who do that because it's such a good paradigm. Yeah, just general movements means you watch at an infant doing spontaneous activity for 3 to 5 minutes. The child is happy. It's not crying. It's not distracted by something in the environment. It just moves. It just generally moves. Yeah, and just by looking at that, you can do this rating, and for the rating you need to be trained. Yes, and that's the problem. We can't train everybody, so we can't screen every infant, right? So that's where the machine learning comes into play. If we can do machine learning of video-based recordings of general movements, this may be the chance to become into a generalized motor screening. Yeah.
Okay.
And this is where, of course, we all work on to find out if there are artificial intelligence algorithms that can help us. Yeah? And the challenge is to be sensitive, to be specific. That means we want to catch the ones who have something, who are not developing in the best way, and we want not to detect as abnormal the ones who are normal. Yeah, so this is what we need to do. It doesn't make sense to have an algorithm who records the infant and analyzes the movements and then says this is not good, but in 80% of the cases he's right, and in 20% of the cases the algorithm is wrong. That would mean that 20% of all the children examined would be
left behind,
abnormal,
right?
But they are not. Yeah, and on the other hand, if you say the algorithm says everything is fine, but the child gets a CP afterwards, later on across time, then this would also be not good. So sensitivity and specificity of these algorithms is the key and the nut that everybody is trying to break and to solve the problem that we are very sensitive and very specific in detecting the infants who have not a normal development.
And of course, you haven't presented on the topic yet. You will shortly. So this interview is prior to. But what have been your findings so far? Where are you in this in the process?
So in the process, we are collecting a lot of movement videos. So we're at 1,600 infants moving recordings, and we parallel collect clinical data to the infants, of course, to the newborns. And we try to track them across time just to make sure that maybe in 2 years we can definitely say, okay, the outcome of this patient, this child, is normal or is maybe not normal or has any neurodevelopmental disorder or maybe the risk of further to develop. So this is a long-lasting project where we do really need to match then the early detection videos with the long-term follow-up. And this is where we are in this process. What we also need to assure is that the quality of the data recording is high. So the videos and the algorithms that we use to train the machine learning have to be very accurate with the truth. So the ground truth that we put into the machine learning algorithms has to be as close to the reality as possible. And you can do that with skeletal tracking. So you have a little skeleton placed into the body, or you can do it in a 2-dimensional video, or you can do it in a 3-dimensional video. And we use a whole body 3-dimensional model that is very, very accurate with the truth. And so we know that our model that we are using is very, very close to the reality.
Okay.
So this is another thing. You need to have good clinical information about the patient, and you need a good model to train the AI with, so you know that the ground data that you are using is the right one.
Oh my goodness.
The third thing is that you have to make sure that the video recording itself is proper.
Right.
If a baby that you're recording is crying, you can record it and you can put it into the database, and then it would serve as a training data set for automated or for general movement analysis, but it's a crying infant, so it's not the right to put in, right? So you have to make sure that the infant is the right one being recorded, the model is the right one that is used to train, and the data that is behind the patient on the long-term run is in a good data set.
Wow.
So that's what makes it so complicated, and the idea is so simple. Using video cameras to track what we see with our eyes as experts, it's so obvious that this will work, but it's a very long journey and everybody is still working on that.
Okay. What is the ultimate goal? Is it to try?
Yeah.
Is it to get? Is it to screen all babies?
There are many different perspectives where you could use it. You could
Okay.
use it for mass screening, motor screening. The sensitivity and specificity would probably be not that high in the end. There will be some wrong findings, and we need to be sure that how to deal with that. If you look at high-risk populations, the sensitivity and specificity will be much better, and this is probably the closest field where we can use the machine-based GMA as early as possible. We're not that far away from that. And the third thing is that we just have objective movement parameters in infancy. So a child comes to birth and we can measure. There was not a possibility to measure in advance, right, before that. So just by detecting objective parameters of movement beyond GMA, a child turns 4 months and the general movements are suppressed by voluntary movements, by goal-directed movements. But still then you can use this objective movement tracking to look for further development, to look for therapeutic assessment of interventions, if they are working better or if they are not working good. So it could become an outcome measure. Range of motion, active range of motion.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So it is very ambitious. It's a
Yeah.
very ambitious goal, and
Yeah.
it's a very long process.
Yes.
I guess I would be concerned, like, for example, I have CP, obviously, as you know. I was detected very late on because I have a very mild case of CP. So it was completely missed,
Yeah.
right? So I'm perhaps one of those babies or those people who could benefit from
Yeah.
something of that
Yes.
you're working on, right?
Yeah.
Because I'm in the more mild spectrum
Yes.
of the cases of CP,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Which are, I imagine, harder to
Yeah.
track.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Your presentation is in 25 minutes,
Yep.
so you have to leave, but
Yeah.
thank you so much for taking the time. It's
Thank
been my
you.
pleasure.
Yes, it was a great pleasure to get to know you, and I hope we stay in contact.
Absolutely.
Yeah.